Hey, this is a TvP first game I'm watching from the pandarush. By the way, one of my other StarCraft friends is named Panda, so pandarush and Panda is gonna be confusing because I keep wanting to just call you Panda. Uh, you should email me your character code or whatever, so I can see if I can find you in game sometime. So this opener in TvP, basically in TvP, the first things you have to worry about are that he can get a double stalker or a zealot stalker to you at about 5 minutes. So if you have pure marine when that shows up against a really good player with decent micro, you can just straight lose. You either need a bunker or a marauder with concussive shells by the time that first stalker hits your base, or else you're just going to take damage that you can't do anything about for quite a while. I don't know if that's as big of a problem down in the Gold League, but eventually you'll realize this. So no gas. This is a little weird. You're just going mass marine, and marines are extremely good in TvZ, but it's really easy to stop them with just stalkers, because stalkers have a longer range and a faster movement speed, and they regenerate shields. So if you just put stalkers here and then marines come to shoot at them, the stalkers get one shot off and then walk back, and then stand still and get one shot off and walk back, and stand still and get one shot off and walk back, and they can kite you forever. It's like grunts versus archers, right? So now you're starting to get gas and double engineering bays. I think this is greedy. This is a greedy thing. It's 7 minutes in, and your army spending is 800 bucks. That's very low. Protoss can get much higher than that at this point in the game. I really just don't like this build order from you at all. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the end of the game, either one way or the other. He's got 1600 and you've got 900. It's pretty typical for the first 9 minutes for Protoss to be able to field double your army size, which is why bunkers are really important, and efficiency in TvP is like the most important thing. In other builds, in other matchups, efficiency is kind of important. It's something that's worth mentioning, but it's not the end of the world. But in TvP, it's like the most important thing, because they are so efficient, like by default, because their units are so expensive. They don't have a lot of upgrades that are worth getting, and they can spend gas out of just one base. Off of just gateway, they can spend gas on reasonable things. So it looks like your opponent is being pretty stupid and might lose all his stuff here when they pop, but nope, looks like he's gonna win. So his remaining army size is 1600 and yours is 0, so let's see that. So it's hard to even talk to this game, because this build from you is just such a bad idea. You built, again, 2 engineering bays that you didn't use at all. You got 600 gas that you couldn't spend. You built extra. I mean, I wouldn't say anything bad about building extra, but you didn't have any bunkers and you didn't have any marauders by the 5-minute mark, so you would just straight up lose to a lot of different things. And so yeah, rather than discuss this game itself, I think I'd rather just show you. And when I say efficiency, I mean every building you have needs to be doing something, kind of thing. So I'll pretend that this guy is Protoss, even though he's Zerg. When you TvP, the opening in TvP always basically has to be 2 racks, because Protoss is so strong in the early game. They're able to get so many units that if you don't open 2 racks, you can just lose to various things. So whenever you TvP, your first goal is to get either a bunker, like I said, a bunker, or a marauder out before 5 minutes. So the 2 racks allows you to do that. But then the second goal is to have enough marines to survive a void ray push by 7 minutes, which means you need at least 8 marines by 7 minutes. And it's hard on 1 racks to get both a marauder and marines. Basically, if you're going to 1 racks, you have to have bunkers. And you'll still just straight up lose to certain things off of 1 racks. Unless you're Batman. I mean, Batman could probably live. So the thing about 2 racks is like you like to throw down the double engineering bay and 3rd racks and factory and all that kind of stuff. But 2 racks spends every penny that you have available to you. So you can't get anything but supply depots and 2 barracks off of the 2 racks build. So you got to resist the temptation to think long term, to think about what you want next, because everything you build takes away from your army size. And if your army size isn't big enough, then when he comes with a gateway push, you'll just die, like you saw in the game that I just watched of yours. This is probably a bad idea. I should probably have recorded this like separately and then just fast forward to show the general concept. But whatever. So as you can see, it's supply, racks, gas, and then I see I'm 15. I'm gonna orbital at 15, and then 1 marine, and then second racks. It's good to leave a space here for a bunker if you want against Protoss, but because I'm actually playing a Zerg instead of a Protoss, I'm gonna make the racks there to complete the wall in. Now this is going to be a reactor core as soon as that marine comes out, and then in TvP you can send this first marine to go get scouting information, because his zealot isn't gonna, his first zealot isn't gonna pop until that marine gets to his base. But in TvZ obviously you can't do that. So this supply depot has to be done before your reactor core finishes. Also, the cool thing about this is because this reactor core takes forever to build, while this 1 marine is in his base harassing him, you don't have to worry about anything but that marine, because you don't have anything else, you know? So you'll see my money gets a little bit high as I'm starting, but then as soon as both racks are actually able to produce stuff, the money drops right back down to 0. So you'll also notice that this same SCV is constantly building supply depots. So now it's 4:30, and I just started a 30-second Marauder, so as you can see, he's going to pop at exactly the right time, at exactly 5 minutes. So that's why you can go... basically, you can go Tech Lab first or Core first. Both of these buildings, a Racks with an add-on is capable of spending $250 a minute, either on Marauders or on Marines. So if you go Tech Lab first, then you can get concussive shells by 5 minutes. Like you see, I'm not going to have it in time. But if you go Core first, you can have more Marines. And Marines are a lot better in the early game against Protoss than Marauders are. So basically, there's just four things that I'm looking at, and just make sure all of these things are always active, you know? So, boom. You saw my gas got a little bit high, and then I started stim. So now at 6.5 minutes or so, like I said, this build is going to spend every penny up till 7 minutes. But at 7 minutes, I'm going to have a little chunk of change. So if I get my factory before then I'll actually be able to spend it when I have the extra money rather than having to wait. It's also... look how low my money is staying. Just by building out of these 3 buildings, it keeps my money at like almost exactly 0. It's so easy and so beautiful. So this is the opener I want you to do against Toss. For the first 9 minutes of the game, all you got to worry about is producing off of these 3 buildings and making supply depots and getting your 3rd building in place. If you want to fast expand, then instead of this factory, you would pull some guys off gas and build a command center. Because basically, minerals and gas are interchangeable. So instead of spending 250 plus 75 is 325 on a factory, you could spend 400 on a command center just by pulling guys off gas and spending minerals instead. Anyway, now that we're past 7 minutes, my income has matured to the extent that 2 buildings can no longer spend all of it, and now 3 buildings are required.
Oh, it's on. Bad news.
Come on, siege tank. So yeah, see, even with that first siege tank, it's just beautifully keeping my cash at almost exactly 0-0. And keeping this guy constantly making supply depots is working out pretty beautifully as well. So with this army that you're making off of this, off of these structures, if you miss any production cycles, your cash will pile up. Like you see, I have exactly enough money to build out of all these structures at all times. So if you ever miss a production cycle, you're not going to have a building to where you can spend that money ever, because this spends exactly all of your minerals. So it's really important to always build exactly what you want, exactly where you want it. In TvP, until warp gate technology finishes at about 6 minutes and 20 seconds now, your 2-Rax Marine Marauder army will be stronger than theirs, stronger than their 2-gate or 1-gate army. So you can be aggressive with it, but don't try to walk up a ramp, because he can just force field you and cut you into little tiny pieces. But you own the map, basically, because your army is stronger than his, as long as you don't go into any choke points. So, yeah. Look, every single penny spent, it's ridiculous. So, at this point, I probably have 40 workers, and max saturation on one base is 22 plus 6, so all of these 8 workers are just not doing anything. So, in TvP, that means, since they're not doing anything anyway, you can use them to fight for you, like your tiny ninjas. In TvZ, that's probably not a good idea, because he's just baneling them and then they'll all die. But you basically have to either stop making workers, and therefore this build will no longer spend every penny, or make a command center, in which case you'll have a small bump in the build in which you're not able to spend the money. Or, yeah, those are your only 2 options, basically. Obviously, since this is a TvZ composition, it's not going to work. I mean, TvP, it's not going to work very well in TvZ, but here comes the banelings. So yeah, that's that build. It's just called the 2-Rax opener. It's the standard TvP opener that everybody and their mother does. I don't know what that means, Simon. What are 2 something? 2 chairs? Do that in TvP. Don't do what you were doing, because what you're doing is crazy. And if you want to fast expand, instead of the factory, you can get an expo. And if you want to go for upgraded Marine Marauders, then instead of the factory, you can get an engineering bay. And if you want to go for drops instead, then after the factory, you make a starport and just never use the factory. So all of the TvP builds are exactly the same opener. It's always 2 racks into something, so just do that.